Coming up on TekThing, NES Classic Edition, a 375GB Raspberry Pi with WDLabs PiDrive GPUs for when you just don't care about gaming. And hey, is your 2FA really 2FAing? We might be geeking out a bit on this TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful on every show.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Especially today.
You have toys.
Well, actually, I would argue that this is not useful so much as fun.
Okay, so the internet is abuzz with news of the NES Classic Edition.
Yes.
Which sold out on Amazon in seconds a couple days ago. $60, one controller, a tween little box stuffed with 30 classic Nintendo games. Shannon scored one.
I did.
I'm curious. I heard Donkey Kong noise coming from this room for like 2 hours yesterday.
Yeah, you know, I actually believe that because there was a daughter of one of my coworkers who was in here, and she was getting her 8-bit on in like a very serious way. She really enjoyed it. She really, really enjoyed Super Mario, so I was happy about that.
Before you ask, the lid doesn't open.
No, it does not.
Everyone who walked in here yesterday was like,
So to preface this, I would say that yes, I do own more Raspberry Pis than I can count, and we do have an emulator running with tons of ROMs. In fact, I think we have 50 gigs worth. I have built retro Pis that play more than this console holds, so why would you buy this? So I have a few different reasons. Number one would be convenience. Not everyone has the time to build a retro Pi emulator, or they may want something that's a little bit more durable for kids. Number two, it's inexpensive. It's $60. So if you calculate that, it comes out to $2 per game that is already pre-installed in here, plus you get a free console and one free controller at that price point. So it's kind of a bargain in that mindset.
And no spending hours downloading or downloading weird cruft from a strange Russian website.
That's so true. Number three, nostalgia. There's tons of classic games included in this teeny tiny box. It's so small, cute. It's so adorable. Yeah, I just licked it. There's Mario, there's Mega Man, there's Zelda,
No.
there's...
We've spoken about licking hardware.
There's Donkey Kong, Final Fantasy.
So
I
how
could go
many
on.
years of your childhood are basically wrapped up in the contents of that
Several.
box?
Like,
Yeah.
it definitely brings back that nostalgia factor. I started playing the original Mario games and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm sitting back at home with my brother and sister when I was like 10 years old playing this game. It is so cool. I just loved it. And it's a collector thing. I own all of the Nintendo consoles except for the Wii U because reasons. So this, for me, is a part of the collection. And yes, my old Nintendo still works with all the cartridges and everything, but it is way easier to just tote this around. So much easier. And lastly, of course, if you're more of a scalper, you could sell them on eBay because they go for like around $200 right now on eBay, even more than $200. And the controllers, he got an extra controller luckily for $10. They're going for $80. That's insane. But people are reselling them and people are buying them for
If
some
they're
reason.
selling for that much money, why isn't Nintendo making more of them?
I would agree. Yeah, Nintendo needs to make more of them.
Come on,
Nintendo does.
Nintendo.
They
Step
need
it
to.
up.
They need to catch up with demand because right now demand is high on this thing.
So basically it has everything you need in the twee little box.
It does. Why don't you go ahead and plug that in and I'll grab the power and HDMI. So luckily all of the cables are included with this. It is super lightweight. It is very, very small. Comes with all the cables that you need in the box already. So it takes micro USB for power and then HDMI for the source. So luckily HDMI is great because the original Nintendo did not have HDMI.
If I didn't
so
think
easily
you'd-
compatible with new TVs.
If I didn't think he'd beat me to death with a hammer, I would totally make us crack this thing open to see.
No,
Come on.
no.
There's
Well,
a Raspberry
not
Pi
yet.
over here. Is that?
Not yet.
Could be the same. No, the HDMI and the USB and the Raspberry Pi are reversed.
Yeah, it's almost the same. The controllers are compatible with the Wii ports on the Wii consoles, so you can vice versa, you can switch them up. But they are very, very short. So a third-party Nyko controller or a longer HDMI cable might be in your future if you're considering purchasing one of these.
Unless you like to sit this far
Yeah,
from the TV.
it is way too close. And no, again, the cartridge plate does not open, which is very sad, but I guess you would just see the insides of it. You would just see the processor in there. I don't know.
There are no cartridges.
Yeah, there are no cartridges. It's very easy to set up. Once you have everything set up, I'll show you what it looks like. That is the menu. So it boots into the operating system. The menu is dead simple. It's very easy to move around. You just browse left and right for the game choice, and then you press A to play. There's a menu at the top, and this allows you to change from 4:3 over to pixel perfect, which gives you better pixel density. And then there's CRT filters. So if you can tell on the screen, this gives you lines in the screen itself, so it looks more like the original. I prefer 4:3. It looks a lot better on my screen, so I'm just going to leave it on 4:3. The menu also has an option to check out a demo. There are manuals for the games via a QR code, so you can just download the QR code and get all the games online, and then you can also reset to factory default if you want to. Now, interestingly enough, if you go over here to open source software, it's a GNU open source licensing, and it does run a Linux distro. So potentially what I'm thinking is we're going to see some hacker reverse engineer the code so that you can get more games running off of this operating system.
Or they'll just run Debian on it.
You know, that's actually just been done. There was an article just written up. Yes, I kid you not, it's true. Over on digitaltrends.com, somebody already ran a custom build of Ubuntu on this device, which is so cool. I just love that hackers are already hacking into this. Luckily, they did put up a whole walkthrough on how they did this. In Japan, it's called the Famicom Mini, just FYI. And then on Nintendo's website, you can actually download the source code. So everything you need is there for you, which is great. And lastly with this as well, I also wanted to mention this because it's very cool. You can also save your gameplay, which is totally different from the original Nintendo.
Big step up
many
from the
games.
original.
Yeah, so of course, if you play Zelda, for example, that one will have, you know, your regular save points in the game like we're used to. But if you want to play, I think Mario did not have save points. So what I did with Mario over here, I played the game, I pressed the reset button to go back to the main menu, and then what happens is you see this little pop-up show up. And under the pop-up, oh, I lost my save points. Oh, I bet the little girl deleted them. Man, that jerk. So what you can do is go into your game and then choose a save point, and all you have to do is press A once you're down in this smaller menu and choose one of those 4 different slots to stick your save point in. So it's very, very easy to choose a save point, and then you can save all your games, because I don't know about you, but as an adult, I don't have time to sit and play Mario for the entire day anymore, which is great. So I love being able to save a game.
You could totally play Mario all day on Saturday.
So go ahead.
Is it worth it for
Go
60
ahead.
bucks?
That's the question, isn't it? Is it worth it?
I think 250 bucks is insane.
Yeah, I would
unless
not.
you have all the free money.
I would not buy it on eBay for 200 bucks, but at $60, yes, it is totally worth it. And luckily, my local Target says that they will have more before Christmas, so demand's still going to be high, but don't spend 200 bucks on eBay. If you fall into any of those categories that I mentioned above, you know, you're a collector, nostalgia, you just don't have time to build one yourself, yeah, it's totally worth it. Totally get one. But if you have the time and the patience to build a retro Pi, you don't really need to buy one of these. You really, really don't. Like, you can save yourself the money, because building a retro Pi at the high end would be, what, 30 bucks maybe? If you use a Pi Zero, it'll be even cheaper if you already have all the components needed. So yeah.
It's so cute.
It's so cute.
I can't believe it sold out in seconds.
Oh, it was insane, yeah.
Will they be coming back to Amazon, or do we know yet?
We don't know yet, but they will definitely be coming back to Target, Walmart, Best Buy, a couple of other retailers. So keep a lookout and like call your local store every morning. Just annoy the crap out of them. Mm-hmm. Patrick, I forgot to mention, when you buy the NES Classic, it comes with a poster.
Is that collectible?
It is now, but the poster has Duck Hunt on it, and Duck Hunt does not come with the NES Classic. Such a tease. Such a tease, Nintendo.
Maybe it'll be an available
Fired.
upgrade later. Something I should have mentioned, we were talking about finding the Nintendo Classic Edition. If you haven't been there, nowinstock.net. We've talked about it a few times, but this is
yes.
right. This is this is the sort of stuff with the most activity on there. You see Lego, Star Wars, PlayStation VR, Pokemon Go Plus. They do GPUs, they do CPUs, which is how I found them. But it will say right now, oh, it's the book.
Oh.
Psych. But the carrying case, but yeah, out of stock.
Jeez.
eBay, all models are available, which will be crazy expensive. But
oh, I'm scared. I don't even want to look at the prices on eBay.
But yeah, it's pretty good. If you're looking for computer parts, this was a great way to find GPUs when everything was crazy expensive.
All right.
Just so you know, nowinstock.net. Good stuff. Your question?
Yes, viewer question. We got a question from Mike who needs a new GPU, but he could care less about 3D gaming. So this is kind of interesting. He says, I am an amateur but enthusiastic photographer. I have a Nikon D7100, which has a 6,000 by 4,000 pixel sensor. I do extensive work on photos in Lightroom and even some in Photoshop. I would like to get a higher resolution monitor for my photo work. As far as I can tell, my computer's HD 4000 graphics will not drive anything over 1920 by 1080. I would like to get a 27-inch 3840 by 2160 monitor. Can you recommend an inexpensive graphics card that could drive a monitor with that resolution? I do not play games, so gaming performance is irrelevant. From Mike. This is a great question for the photographers out there, myself as well.
Photographers, video editors, people who play around with all sorts of stuff. But so this is Mike's Flickr page, and he's got some gorgeous imagery up here. He's using that camera in a nice way. Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
Those colors.
This could have actually been parked across the street from our warehouse recently. So anyway, pictures, right? This looked like such a simple question, but it totally depends on which chip you have paired with those HD 4000 graphics from your Intel processor. Ooh. So if you dig inside, there's specs for this, right? So if you dig inside the quick reference guide for Intel Core processor graphics, and you get this mess.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. DisplayPort is different from HDMI. So it's like H processors can do 3840 by 2160 at 60 hertz. U processors can do 3200 by 2000 at 60 hertz or 3840 by 2160 at 30 hertz. Whoa. The Y processors can do 2560 by 1600 at 60 hertz. HDMI should be able to do 4096 by 2304 or 3840 by 2160 at 24 hertz, and then DVI maxes out at 1920 by 1200 at 60 hertz.
Okay, I lost you.
Yeah, well, don't feel bad, right? It basically means that each different sort of series of processor has a different series of max for the resolution it can display. Now, this is, I want to say, a 2 or 3 year old processor. And look, Intel 2500 graphics, they max out at 1080p on HDMI, 2560 by 1600 on DisplayPort. You might be able to support 3840 by 2160 with your current onboard graphics. That's the first thing to think about on that. The second thing is don't just buy the cheapest GPU out there.
Dang it.
First of all, CUDA cores can accelerate Photoshop and Lightroom functions, and I'm not going to go get too deep into that because there's whole articles up on Adobe talking about how the Photoshop graphics processor, Photoshops can use the graphics processor and the Mercury engine, the officially supported or not supported graphics. There's more information available from NVIDIA that talks about Lightroom and Photoshop. And something that kind of frustrated me is it turns out the latest version of the NVIDIA drivers will actually break certain important features inside of Lightroom, so you need to roll it back to 368.81.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because I have NVIDIA at home.
You might not want to update that GPU driver. So Lightroom, Photoshop, whatever acceleration aside, the cheapest GPUs out there actually don't do higher resolutions or they have horrible refresh rates. Something that was crazy when I started looking into this question, it turns out there's like a 705, a 710, a 720, a 730, a 740, a 745, a 750, the 750 Ti, a card I love, and at that point you're up in the $150 range and you should be buying like a 1050 or 1050 Ti anyway. So the GeForce GT 710 Max, if you can even find one for sale, that's going to max out. That'll do 3840 by 2160, but it maxes out at 30 hertz, which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer 60 hertz refresh rates. A GT 730, it turns out there's 3 versions of this card. It's crazy, right? There's 3 different versions based on the memory. If you get the DDR3 128-bit one, you're actually only going to support 2560 by 1600. But if you get the DDR3 or GDDR5 version, Then you can do 3840 by 2160 2160 at 30 hertz again, which again I'm not a huge fan of. If you can find a GT 740 for sale, then you've got 3840 by 2160 hertz. It's really, really crazy to start digging around in there. And as you get into more, you want to go down the, oh wait, that's 3840 by 2160 again. So I would probably say look for a GTX 750. This has just got out of control. And a GTX 750 should be like 50 to 60 bucks less than a 1050. So the 1050 has a higher clock speed and faster memory and more CUDA cores. No, actually, a GTX 1050 will have the same number of CUDA cores as a GTX 750 Ti.
Oh.
It gets messy.
Yeah.
But the 750 Ti will run slower and therefore I think accelerate things less in terms of your CUDA cores, accelerating your applications. Messy? Yes. Did I know that there were that many variations on, I'd never even heard of a GT 705 or 710 before I started looking into this question.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. All of these will do 1080p just fine, but when you start getting to 4K resolutions, things get ugly. For everybody out there who spends a lot of quality time in Photoshop or Lightroom or Premiere, all the CS6 stuff, I'm curious, is GPU acceleration a big thing for you? We want to hear how GPU upgrades did or didn't make a difference for you. Email ask@tekthing.com, and hopefully this helps everyone out there looking for a low-cost GPU. Got a tech question? Curious to see us review something on TekThing? Got a tip or an idea you want to share with the crew? Fire them out. Ask@tekthing.com, please. Or you can tweet @TekThing, @Snubs, or @Patrick Norton. And hey, if you want to be part of the crew that actually makes this show happen each and every week, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. Just $1 an episode will make a difference, and you'll get access to our patron-only build videos and quite a bit more. And hey, thank you for your patronage. You make the show possible. If you can't donate, we understand. Send in those emails. And if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, there's so much news there, or review TekThing on iTunes, your fave podcatcher, we'd appreciate it. It all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TekThing, no matter how you do it. Remember, kids, the best reason to put a Raspberry Pi into a Raspberry Pi case is so that when somebody borrows it and throws it in their bag, you don't get it back with a bunch of GPIO pins that are bent.
Oh my gosh, they're so bent.
It's okay.
Aww.
I have tools. My dad has an excellent set of tools in his garage. He's a TV repairman. We can fix this.
So Raspberry Pi hacking, huh?
I love Raspberry Pi hacking. Apparently I shouldn't be a loner of Raspberry Pis. But and as thrilling as I'm sure it is to watch me with my beloved Leatherman repairing Raspberry Pi GPIO pins, I should probably talk about this, which is from WDLabs. So Raspberry Pi hacking, right? It's awesome.
Yeah.
But you've got on a Raspberry Pi, even with bent pins, you've got like the micro SD card that you boot the operating system on, and then you can plug stuff into the USB ports.
Right.
And storage
like a flash drive.
Exactly, and that's pretty much what most people run off of.
Exactly.
Micro SD cards have a problem when you run the operating system on them, especially if you do frequent writes. You can actually wear them out. And of course, there's not a whole lot of storage on a micro SD card.
That's very true.
You're pretty much maxing out at like 200 gigabytes at this point. And it's an expensive 200
It's expensive
gigabytes.
if you go over that, yeah.
120 gigabytes, not so bad. Enter Western Digital Labs. They've been making kits to make running your Pi operating system directly off of a hard drive.
That's cool.
Or more accurately, maybe that's how the pins got bent. More accurately, you boot off the micro SD card, but actually run the operating system off the hard drive.
Oh.
Yes, you can roll your own. If you go to adafruit.com, there's a really awesome walkthrough on using an external drive as a Raspberry Pi root file system. But I got to be honest with you, that is a pain in the ass compared to the PiDrive. This is the Foundation Edition, their latest PiDrive, which ships, depending on which version, you get a 250 gigabyte or a 375 gigabyte 7mm slim disk drive, the Western Digital PiDrive cable, and a SanDisk micro SD card preloaded with a special version of Noobs that configures the operating system to run off of your hard drive.
Oh, so, a special version.
Let me make it clear. You boot off the SD, which then installs the OSs to the PiDrive, and when you restart the Pi, it boots off the SD and then hands things over to the PiDrive.
Gotcha. Okay.
Setup is easy. It's a little flying spaghetti monster-y. You power down your Pi, you remove the Ethernet Wi-Fi card, you plug in the PiDrive cable,
Okay.
You pop in that preloaded micro SD card, keyboard, mouse, HDMI cable, and it boots into Noobs.
Okay.
By the way, you want at least a 2 amp 5 volt power supply because this draws a little bit more power than a micro SD card.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Select install to SDA. That's important. You're looking for the little USB logo or you'll overwrite the micro SD card.
So that's the hard drive?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
And then you select your operating system?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you don't select if you don't select the SDA, the USB option, you will overwrite your micro SD card.
Oh, you don't want that to happen.
Ask me how I know. So the primary, there's a whole bunch of options in there, but the primary options are project spaces. These are like 8, 16, and 32 gigabytes like Raspbian Light partitions.
Okay.
Or you can install all the things, including media operating systems, and boom, you restart it and you have an operating system or multiple operating systems to boot from and a ton of storage.
That's cool.
If you want to install a different operating system, you need to do the whole shift during recovery, during restarts, and remember this will be a destructive reinstall. But it runs, and it runs really, really well.
That's really cool.
It's, well, I was looking at the, okay, so hold on. Before I talk about the really big option, the WD PiDrive Foundation Edition, the 250 gigabyte version available now sells for $28.99. The 375 gigabyte version we tested will sell for $37.49. And WDLabs has a 1 terabyte version that has a power adapter and enclosure for $79.99. That one's been on sale for a while if you dig through the WDLabs webpage. But if you go here and into products, and there's the 1 terabyte kit. And a big part of the 1 terabyte kit, or something you may want to look at when you think about all of those cables, is they do PiDrive enclosures that are designed to hold not just the Raspberry Pi, but of course the hard drive inside of there. And they've got a bunch of different options for those. And they're, competitively priced with Raspberry Pi enclosures. Go forth, make cool stuff. And yes, you can download a version of Berry Boot from WDLabs. WDLabs.wd.com is the website. But you probably would want to order a PiDrive cable while you're there to actually make it work. And before anyone asks, it is Raspbian Jessie Lite that they are doing most of the installations on. Yeah.
Ideas.
Server. Little tiny server. The little tiny $50 server with 375 gigabytes of storage. Just a thing. Just a possibility.
We got an email from Reese who writes, "Good day. A month or so ago, I got a bit more serious about my passwords and security after watching your show. I added a code generator to both my Microsoft account and Facebook. About a week ago, I was setting up LastPass and changing passwords and noticed both Microsoft and Facebook didn't ask for a code and found out that after adding a code generator, you need to actually turn on two-factor authentication, unlike Google, who puts 2FA and a code generator in one basket. TLDR, check that 2FA is turned on. Cheers from Reese." Yeah, that's a great point. Some of those accounts you actually have to go into the settings and click turn on 2FA after you have applied a code generator.
Here's a lock, which is really useless if you don't actually install it in the door. Excellent.
So annoying.
Thank you,
Yes, thank you.
Oh my goodness. A shout out to Joe DiPiazza, who was watching our review of Google's Home versus Amazon Echo last week. Joe posted on Facebook.com/TekThing. You mentioned that you need Prime to use the Echo, so I did some reading. I said, I don't really want to spend $79 a year just for Echo. And I see that apparently isn't the case. And the Prime subscription just gives you Prime Music and cloud storage, but you can still use Echo without it. Could you guys just confirm I have read it right, please? Absolutely correct. When Amazon launched the Echo, you needed to be a Prime member to be able to buy it. And I thought that meant you needed to be a Prime member. Shannon, that is absolutely no longer the case, correct?
Right, yes. So now anybody can buy the Echo or the little Dot as well. And pretty much the only things you need Amazon Prime for are the music listening through Prime Music, and if you want to order anything. So shopping through the Echo requires you to have Prime. So you can read a bunch of FAQs over on Amazon.com's website, and all of that information will be listed in our show notes. So you guys can have the direct link.
What do you find yourself asking Alexa?
Alexa?
I was going to try not to say her name.
Sorry, guys.
Somebody got really upset. I said, that name, not Snubs, but the Alexa name like 6 times in one show, and somebody was like, dude, please don't ever do that again.
Unsubscribe.
Sorry.
So I find I usually ask Echo for the weather every single morning. I like to add things to my shopping list because it's super easy. For example, today I added milk to my shopping list. Music I listen to a lot. I've been getting back into Audible books, so I listen to Audible books a lot on my Echo, and then that's about it. Yeah. Just those 4 things.
No crazy home automation stuff yet?
No, not yet. I do have a Wemo hooked up to it, but the Wemos are also programmed to turn on at certain times.
Right.
So I generally don't need to use the Echo to turn those on. But if I do, I just tell it, turn on the living room, and then it turns on the living room stuff.
Tie Wemo to the remote controllable, or no, you can tie Echo to the Wemo crock pot.
I do expect that I'll use it more once the Sonos implementation happens next year, which they are saying will happen. So I'm just like holding on for dear life that that's actually going to be the case, because I've been wanting it since the Echo came out. So come on, guys.
And then you
get
want
it
to
working
retrain
with
the
Sonos.
language to be like, Echo,
Yeah.
rip some punk rock jams.
And I know there's some awesome like IFTTT and like smart thing stuff you can do there too, but I haven't really delved into them too much.
And I said Echo because I didn't want to say the other name.
Yeah.
So they didn't want your Echo to answer me. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, once in a while, put down the phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog like Ant, who's back again with a fresh video.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this for you with the audio up.
You can't get any more analog than pumping a little iron. All about them thick geeks, baby.
That's awesome! Thank you so much, Ant. That was great. And you guys can check out his other vlogs. We shared the fishing one a little while back.
Ant's got his analog on.
Yeah, he does. So it's ANTPRUITT over on YouTube. So thank you, Ant. And of course, anybody else, if you guys have videos or pictures that you want to send in, we would love to share your analog pics. You can send them to ask@tekthing.com, or you can just tweet them to us over Twitter. We're at TekThing too. We'll take all of them.
Please.
Yay!
Analog. I should say that with all the middle consonants too.
Oh, I just did an analog. You want to see it?
No. I was saying, like, I said analog, but I think I said it without, like, the L and a couple of the N's.
You want to see my analog?
You looked at the moon. Did you go outside and look at the moon?
I did. I got a picture of the supermoon. It's not super clear or anything, but you know, it's the best I can get with my telescopic antenna, which is not so telescopic. Or not
With your
antenna.
camera?
My lens, yeah.
Okay.
Antenna. I was thinking about ham radio. I don't know. Bouncing signals off the moon. It's a thing.
Confusing.
It's really a thing.
I'm Battery Dorton.
I'm Shannon
We'll
Morse.
see you next week on TekThing. Did it give you additional levels?
Oh
of
no.
gameplay or
But
weapons?
there were broken points in Ocarina of Time. Like there's a mountain that you can walk over and then you just fall, but you stay alive. And there's another thing where you can use, what is it, the hook shot or something, while you're riding Epona, and Epona will keep running, and then you're just hovering in the air with the hook shot out, and you can like sway back and forth. It's the weirdest thing. So there are some really, really weird glitches in that game.
So odd.
That just like, the amount of time I spent playing Ocarina of Time, like, I wasted so much time on that game.
That's okay. The amount of time I wasted on like Doom or Quake.
Oh. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
let's not talk about that. Whatever you do, don't tell my wife.
Bye guys.